What's up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here. This is going to be on a new episode for Classic Albums Revisited, and I'm looking forward to review this one because this album has its memories of nostalgia from my past self to today, and I'm going to be talking about this album by Sepultura entitled Chaos AD. Now, Chaos AD is their 5th studio album overall, and this is the second to last album with Max Cavalera involved. He decided to leave the band for very difficult circumstances after the album Roots in 1996. Chaos AD, I still really remember a lot of memories on this album. Chaos AD is one of those albums that I was playing multiple times over and over and over again, especially onto my time of discovering bands like Korn, System of a Down, Fear Factory, to Black Sabbath, and Gojira, Slipknot, etc. But Sepultura's album of this holds a big place in my heart. The album was recorded at Rockfield Studios in Wales, and this was recorded, mixed and produced by Andy Wallace. The album cover art was done by Michael Whelan, and I absolutely adore it. It's just so much to look at, and the details are just phenomenal. I love the way it looks. It's just one of the greatest metal album covers of all time, in my opinion. And I ranked this cover art very, very highly as my second favourite metal album cover of all time, the number one pick being Mastodon's Crack the Sky. Chaos AD's music is less on the thrashy side, and this was onto something very, very different, simplistic, groovy side of their music. As with the band themselves, that they wanted to explore into different marks of territory in the songwriting. And the simplicity of this album is outstanding. It was very, very groovy, and it's still a powerful record from what it was from when it was released to today. This album lyrically is on a lot of different things, a lot of protest, and what I do love about this lineup on Sepultura is that a lot of the lyrics deal heavily onto their surroundings, about what's going on, from the difficulties and the madness that had been happening in their home country of Brazil. And I think that is one of the most unique things about Sepultura, is that they do think about what's going on from what had happened at that time and cast it into a big piece of music. There's a lot of intensity on this record, from some thrashy arranged riffs to a lot of the ravenous, raw and pissed off vocals from Max's vocals, to the monstrous drumming from Igor, and the frantic, very eerie, maddening guitar solos from Andreas Kisser, and the slick, very heavy sound on the bass from Paulo Jr.'s bass parts. The opening song, Refuse Resist, begins with the sound of the heartbeat of Zion Cavalera, who was unborn at the time, Max's son, and the song begins with the batucada style, traditional style drumming, and then the whole song explodes into life with its intensity. It's a lyrical protest onto the police menacing opening song, and its lyrics did perfect that protest with words of tanks on the streets, confronting police, bleeding the plebs. And it is one of my big favourite Sepultura tracks ever. The second track, Territory, starts onto one of my most favourite drumming intros of all time. This is, to me, my second favourite Sepultura track of all time, period. I adore the introduction, and this track dealt with the conflict between the Palestinian and Israeli people. Very, very dark, doomy style track. It's one of the songs that brings back memories, and same goes with the next one, Slave New World, which is based on another protest on censorship, and some of the lyrics were co-written in fact, by Evan Seinfeld, who's the bass player from another metal band called Biohazard, and this is, to me, my favourite Sepultura track of all time. I remember seeing the music video to it, and I couldn't stop watching it. I played it on repeat. My eyes were just, in contact with it. And that was like the big beginning of me discovering this album as a whole. Simplicity with aggression is another big part in metal music, and there were later bands that would make this kind of music in the future. Lamb of God have made a lot of material that were quite thrashy, but a lot of groove-orienting sounds of instrumentation. And Chaos AD's grooviness is just powerful. One of my other high favorites is the instrumental of Kiowa's, a beautiful instrumentation that has a lot of percussion, again with the batucada percussion involved, but with some acoustic strung guitar playing. And this track was inspired by the Brazilian Indian tribe that committed mass suicide after the American government were taking over their land. I really love this instrumental. It is very dark. One of the faster tracks is Biotech is Godzilla, and the song was co-written lyrically by Jello Biafra, who was a member of Dead Kennedys, as with Sepultura themselves were big fans of the band. Energetic, quick, punky-esque sound. And Biotech is Godzilla was written from Jello's experience during his visit to ECO in 1992, a world conference about ecology organized by Rio de Janeiro. George Bush's choice on sending a group of scientists to Brazil to test gems and bacteria on human beings. That is pretty sickening to hear that. But this track, being the shortest on this album, is one of my big favourites. Manifest is such a messed up song lyrically, and it has a lot of audio on Falk's radio reports about the Carandiru massacre. And if you look at the lyrics, they are just so messed up. One of the most brutal material that I've ever heard from this band. Nomad is another great track. This was written by Andreas, and it presents its lyricism about people being expelled from their homelands. The Hunt is a cover. It's the only cover for this album. It's originally a New Model Army cover, but Sepultura have made it their own, really. An excellent cover. So Chaos AD, while being one of the most intense albums they've ever done, I just still adore this album for a lot of reasons. The production done by Andy Wallace is just one of my big favourites. I love the distorted guitar sounds, the really punchy and menacing sound of the drums, and the bass, very, very big in itself. And I love that the bands were experimenting not only from the aggression, but to experiment on percussion and to have different sounds that they want to use into this kind of music for this album. And the batucada instrumentation would continue on onto their next album, Roots. Such a big remembrance on my time being so obsessed into this whole thing from start to finish. It never ever gets old. It'll always be my big main favourite Sepultura album in their entire discography. Let me know what you think of this album in the comments below, and this album will always be one of my top 10 favourite albums of all time ever. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.